Foundation Course Kabbalah, Part 1, Lesson 9. Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. About the relation teacher-student. It is important to know how my relation is considering you and every student, and why I do what I do. When I start the lesson, or even before I start, I disconnect myself with my outer being and make myself small. Making myself small, considering everyone who's attending the lesson, I connect myself from the inside with the four places, and this makes it possible for you to receive. In a way, I make myself transparent. From the inside, my ego is disappeared. When you want to receive the optimum of the lesson, you have to do the same. As long your ego is attending, you will receive nothing. You have to disconnect yourself from your outer being. We both have to be disconnected with the outer being. It is the same with the area of the good and evil. I don't show it to you. This is my area. It only concerns me. This is my personal area, and only I have to work on it. Therefore, I have to close this area too. Of course, a complete disconnection isn't possible, but I'm making myself transparent. I treat from the area of the good, the inner being, the area of the good. From this area, I try to approach you. There are several strengths and forces in the universe. What are these strengths and forces? How are they manifesting themselves? The Creator himself makes all strengths. They manifest itself as a wavelength. We can observe these strengths as wavelengths. You can compare this with the radio. There are long and short wavelengths, and there are very sensitive wavelengths, and even more and more sensitive wavelengths. There are wavelengths that are so sensitive no radar or satellite can attract these signals from the sky. All these wavelengths are longer and less sensitive than the wavelengths of the spiritual. They are in the inner being. The wavelengths of the spiritual are in every being, in his inner being. In this spiritual wavelength, there are billions of short and very strong lengths, stronger than whatever radar. The spiritual wavelengths are much shorter and stronger. We can approach this area, but no radar or space vessel can enter this area. Why not? Because it is material. It is only possible for every human being to reach this area, and we, all beings, have to and must come into this spiritual area. This spiritual area has no matter. It is the 0 point. Let me try to explain to you. The outer being is on the scale of the long wavelengths. The area of the good and evil is the short wavelength. And within the inner being, we see the shortest but most powerful wavelengths. Suppose someone has a malicious tumor. He receives chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is the finest wavelength that can penetrate within the cell, but billion more times is the outcome of the strength coming from the inner being. Can you imagine? The outer being is from the outside. He doesn't care about the spiritual. From within of the outer being, we see the story. But each one of us has his own story. One can be a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, or a philosopher, but one is still between the layer of the outer being and the area of the good and evil. In this area, we see also the disease. They are on the inner side of the outer being. Why? One becomes ill when he's not in agreement with the laws of the universe. What is he doing? Why does he have a disease? Men are living according to his outer wishes. No matter when he is a burglar or a famous scientist, he only lives in the outer area. And when one sin in the area of the good and evil, then the roots of the disease will have a grip on him. Of course, you have to know, diseases don't exist. In the system, there is no existing of diseases, but when you misbehave yourself, you don't live according to the instructions, remember the 4 commandments, then you become ill. When you don't live according to the laws of the universe, it is you yourself who attracts the evil. It is your uncorrected part, what is fertile ground, and this is coming to you and manifests itself in you by way of physical problems. Then you suffer. Why? It is only there for you to force you to dwell. The outer doesn't interest me. Diseases are beginning from the outer side, and when you don't listen, it becomes chronic. It goes to the inside. Then it becomes a sin. What does this mean, a sin? When you make a mistake for the first time, it isn't a sin. Even the second or the third time, it isn't a sin. But when you go on and on making the same mistake, it will become a sin. Then it becomes part of you. And in a way, it has settled itself within you. The first mistake is easy to correct. But as soon it becomes a pattern, the soon you think it is something standard, you can't judge clearly anymore. We are only interested in the inner being. For example, one is demented, it is only damaged from his outer being, but his inner being is still alive. Of course, one can give him an injection, but you have to know that his inner is still alive. Within him, the sun is shining, but doctors only see the outer being. In the eyes of the Creator, he's still good because he sees the person already in the next stage. He sees the person who has corrected everything. I know this is hard to understand. Therefore, learn to distinguish the outer and the inner. What is the outer and what is the inner? Your questions have to be about the inner. These questions I will answer. Not the questions about this material world. I don't talk about this world. Each one of us has a good part. For me, this is a certainty, but others don't know this yet. I want to penetrate the story and bring you to your inner being. The story is the outer part of the inner being. And I want to go to your inner. Therefore, I make myself small. Then I can shine from within. This will bring communication back and forth, but you too have to make yourself small. In the inner, the wavelengths are very short but very strong. This is what I try to pass on. I try to pass on the spiritual strengths. I receive these strengths by way of reading the holy books. And while reading these books, I do the same. I make myself small. So now I can receive the short wavelengths. While you are here, I bombard you with these short wavelengths. I shine through your story. See, it is this way. Your story is as limestone, soft and easy to penetrate, and under the limestone there is the inner being. The story doesn't touch your inner. The good has to come from the area of the good and evil, not from the good of the religion or whatever. It has to come from your area, from your inner good. From my inner side I penetrate your outer, for to come within your inner. This is the subject of our study. We are talking about how man correct himself, correct the area of the good and evil. This is our working area. All religions are a forerunner of the true spiritual work. Kabbalah begins where religions ends. It is the Kabbalah that brings you to your inner being. I penetrate this area, and when you listen and reading this and make yourself small, it will certainly help. But you have to do your part. You have to help me. You have to help the Creator. Therefore, do the same as I do. Make yourself small. Have the same behavior. When you make yourself small, it becomes easier for me to penetrate you, to reach your inner. for to bombard your area of the good and evil, and then one day you will carry the fruit of our work. The limestone will be fertilized ground, and my part is to approach you from my inner area. Of course, I have an outer part too, but it's mine, and it is up to me to work on it. Only in the inner being there is good. There is sitting the Creator. My task is from within and not from the words, but it is about the strengths within the words. It is not about the singer, but about the song. And through these strengths your limestone disappears. You will notice this because you can breathe deeper and become more pure. The more you purify yourself, the deeper I can come, deeper and deeper and deeper. You will feel more and more, but you have to cooperate with me. Your attitude has to be for 100% within, aimed at the spiritual, not half-hearted. In the spiritual, there's only everything or nothing. You have to open your gates for 100%. Open your gates to your inner being. Then my task will end. You will get a personal relation with the Creator. My task is only to penetrate your limestone area, so now you can reach and come to your inner being. One day, you will be independent, meaning you have your own direct relation with the Creator, with the light. Once you have become independent, you can say your own prayer, but this is only possible when you have reached and experienced your inner. Only then you can come directly in contact with the Creator, and you will receive from Him the direct answer. The Creator has the shortest wavelengths. Within the Ein Sof, there is such a short wavelength, and this wavelength will penetrate you completely, from the inner to the outer. Then you receive the strength that will expand your good more and more and more. Interaction between the Kabbalah teacher and the reader. By making himself small from within, the reader will become more receivable. So now he can take in all what the teacher is saying and bring about in his inner. The teacher makes himself smaller and lower than any reader because only in this way he can give. He neglects during the lesson his outer being and his area from good and evil, though his area becomes more transparent and shines with inner strength, coming from the inner strength of the teacher. Now there is a revealing in words, drawings, and gestures to the reader. It goes through the area of the outer of the reader to the border of his area of good and evil. It is within this area the teacher fires and stimulates the good within this area, for now he can grow. And within, the reader starts to grow his inner spiritual pores. See drawing A, B, and C in the written material, by which his area of good and evil will be taken in by the good more and more. The increasing of the good will be added to his inner being and will be never taken away from him. As you know, the deeds of a human are only reaching to the area of his good and evil, but the area of his inner being always stays intact. The same relation as we see here between the teacher and the reader is also valid in all other ways of interaction, whereby there is a true form of the giving and of a legitimate form of receiving. Refer to the drawings in the written material.